my dudes, welcome back to the second channel. Today I'm trying out a potential new series called Loud and Wrong, in which I dissect some stupid fights and misunderstandings that I've witnessed in comment sections because it happens way too often. I spend a lot of time reading the comments of everything I consume, and it physically pains me to see so many people so loud and so wrong. Hence why I'm being loud back in this video, and it's gonna be very funny if I'm also wrong, but so be it. First, I want to start with the Betty Boop upside down debacle. This goes back to Halloween, okay? Many girlies wore Betty Boop costumes for Halloween. Okay, cute. They post their outfits, and some commenters noted on this one, oh, oops, you're wearing your corset upside down. The sweetheart neckline should be at the top, you know? Mind you, this TikTok was posted on October 26th. I found one other girly who was Betty Boop that same weekend who also wore her corset upside down, and importantly, very important to note, unintentionally. It was an accident. Oops.
I did not do this intentionally. I don't know. I didn't realize my shit was upside down. My friends didn't realize.
So no one really noticed. I was comfortable because my girls were secure, so I didn't notice, and that's all it was.
Which, by the way, a lot of people celebrated Halloween early this year, like the weekend of the 25th, which is kind of crazy because Halloween landed on a Friday this year, which isn't that the perfect day to celebrate? Whatever. But at some point, a major piece of misinformation was born and began to spread. Somewhere in between girly wearing her corset upside down and other people wearing their costumes the next weekend, someone had the audacity to insist, actually, no, wait, she's not wearing it wrong. The original Betty Boop actually wore her corset upside down. Oh, really? Wow. But here's the thing, where the hell did you get that information from? I've never heard that before in my life. I've never seen that from what I recall of Betty Boop. What are you talking about? Some people have suggested that whoever commented this first, the original poster, was joking, and they were just saying that to make the girlies feel better. Oh, actually, yeah, the original Betty Boop had her corset upside down. Perhaps that original comment was a joke. I don't know which of the comments is original because TikTok doesn't have like exact timestamps. Wish they did for my research purposes. It may have just been a joke, but once it caught fire, it became real. And also, you can never rule out the element of rage bait. No wonder we're muddying the waters here. And this was an example that I knew I had to save because I'm so fascinated by how things that are blatantly untrue can spread like wildfire, especially on TikTok, but like all over the internet. Help us. It baffles me that some people, some consumers, will see a single comment and not only believe it immediately, but also then share the misinformation. And they're so confident in spreading it. They're really like, wow, I learned a new fun fact. Let me go educate the masses. And that worries me. Multiple commenters now are insisting, yeah, the original Betty Boop actually wore her corset upside down. Look it up. Look it up. Do your own research, they're always saying. And yet, I want to see your work. I want to see your work backwards. I want to see where your source was. It's fascinating that to some people, the phrase look it up, instead of actually encouraging them to look it up, they just take look it up as such an authoritative response. That person must be right because they're telling me to look it up, therefore it's got to be true. I believe them enough to not look it up myself. It boggles the mind. And I think the problem is that these people are not actually Googling anything. They're not actually leaving the platform and trying to find information. They're only searching on TikTok because I can see the little suggested search bar. It's like Betty Boop original outfit corset upside down. And when you're searching TikTok, guess what? You're finding other confident misinformation spreaders. So anyway, like I said, the original girly, her upside down corset occurred on October 26th. Meanwhile, we have an entire week before real Halloween for that Betty Boop upside down corset lie to fester and spread just in time for it to hit on actual Halloween weekend. And it unfortunately infected other Betty Boop cosplayers. Based on all the comment timestamps that I'm seeing, the Betty Boop upside down theory was widespread by October 30th. And by this point, so much of TikTok believes this idea. They've come across this other TikTok and they've internalized this new information. They believe it so hard that now they are commenting on other Betty Boop costume TikToks in which people are wearing their corsets right side up, sweetheart neckline and all, and they are telling these people who are wearing the corset correctly, actually, the original Betty Boop actually wore hers upside down, so you're wearing it wrong. Literally too stunned to speak. Imagine putting on your costume, you know, putting on a corset the way that a corset goes, and being told that you're wearing it wrong. Like, that's just kind of infuriating in a small way. You're just like, oh, that's stupid. That's not right. What are you talking about? But of course, it's probably not just gonna be one comment. You're gonna be flooded, very confusingly flooded, with these very loud and wrong comments. I spend a lot of time these days thinking about how we live in a post-truth world. Again, it shocks and baffles me at every turn. It genuinely scares me. I'm like, well, okay, well, if everyone accepts this as the truth, despite all the evidence, despite history, nothing's real. What is truth? What is reality? So finally, we have to get into some fact checking, okay? I need to know the truth. I'm a Googling ass bitch. Now, first of all, when it comes to this idea, whoever originated the idea, I want to speak to you, but whoever was the first to say, actually, Betty Boop did have her corset upside down. If I'm a consumer and I'm reading that, step one, think critically, okay? Is that so? Why would the creative choice be to have cartoon character Betty Boop wear a corset upside down? Doesn't that just sound strange? Doesn't that just sound like something all of us would have noticed, like collectively at some point prior to this Halloween? Or is this a Mandela effect? Don't get me started. What would the point be? Why? Huh? Just think about that. Just think, does this seem true? To some people, they're like, yeah. Obviously. Yeah, sounds good. Fun fact. And I think an important factor in this discussion is we can definitely question this idea that your Halloween costume needs to be biblically accurate, okay? Like, again, even just people being like, you're wearing that wrong, or that's not true to character. Halloween costumes are about vibes, okay? You can try to be as true to character or whatever source as possible, or you can just kind of be like Disney bounding, essentially. Whatever. And to the girlies who did accidentally wear their corsets upside down, you still looked very cute. I hope you enjoyed Halloween. I hope you didn't get too bothered by people weirdly bullying you about your corset. But yeah, it's so strange that like this became a nitpicky point to begin with. Like, yeah, obviously noticing a girly and being like, hey, did you know your corset's upside down? And then her being like, oh shit, oops, I didn't. That's fine. But to create this entire backstory about Betty Boop to justify this lie about her outfit for the sake of Halloween costumes, what's going on? Continuing, my fact check, okay? Naturally, I Google Betty Boop, okay? Many photos of the cartoon character pop up. First of all, in the most iconic photos of Betty Boop that most of us know and love, she is either wearing a black or a red dress with a sweetheart neckline. Maybe some of you don't know what a sweetheart neckline is. It's shaped like a heart at the top, okay? She's wearing her garter. That's the look. There are many different iterations of the character that have been used over time, but like this is the classic iconic Betty Boop, right? And I've seen people in the comments, they did their research, they looked it up, they come with their photo evidence, and they're using these photos to say, you look at the bottom of the dress, and the edge is kind of like scalloped. Proof that Betty Boop did indeed wear her corset upside down. This is a photo of Betty Boop wearing her corset upside down. And I'm like, yeah, except the fact that that's not a corset. That's just a dress. Right side up, actually.
It is just endlessly fascinating. I keep finding more examples of people in the comments defending this, like using this evidence, and I would say coming to the wrong conclusion. Then someone replies to them with a Google summary that says, no, Betty Boop did not wear a corset upside down. And the original person replies like, oh, yeah, as if AI is so reliable. And I'm like, yeah, you're right about not over-relying on AI summaries. I'm with you there. Crazy enough, I keep seeing people share their proof, and they're all just the AI Google summary, and I'm like, you're almost there, you're Googling. You win some, you lose some. But anyway, this girl, Maya, continues to still be wrong, though, in thinking that Betty Boop appears to be in an upside-down corset. It's like, okay, it might look similar, but that's not it. It's a dress. Sometimes the answer is the most obvious solution. Instead of this conspiracy, this theory that the designers of Betty Boop created her wearing an upside-down corset, mayhaps she simply had a dress that had kind of a scallopy shape.
And again, back to the point about costumes, you absolutely can do this. You can wear a corset because wearing a corset instead of a dress is a different creative interpretation of the character. Absolutely fair game for a costume, of course. You want to make it a little sexier. Cool, love it. And if in your creative interpretation or while you're getting dressed, you go, you know what, I'm gonna do something fun and crazy. I'm flipping that corset upside down. It fits me better that way, whatever, it's more comfy. Rock on, girly. That's fine. But for anyone to insist that that is the one correct way to dress like Betty Boop, have a Betty Boop costume, to wear a corset, God help us. So then the theorists are like, well, how do you explain the scallopy edge and the bottom of the upside down corset? It's a dress, but yeah. Betty Boop was created as a jazz age flapper character. So like what I'm calling a scallopy look is probably just like little bits of fringe. Like that's what it's meant to represent, as like a little fringy flappery dress. A little bit of movement, a little bit of whimsy. But before we continue, this portion of today's video is sponsored by Bombas. Especially now that it's so cold outside and inside, I am keeping my Bombas slippers on all winter long. These are the incredible Sunday slippers. My besties had them, which inspired me to buy some for myself and Nathan. And I actually just bought 2 more pairs as gifts for my grandparents. I hope you're not watching yet, Grandma. Bombas are most well known for their incredible socks, which I love. But I've got to say, these slippers are next level. Not to sound like a complete influencer, but I'm kind of obsessed. The Sunday slippers are sturdy yet plush, so they feel very comfortable, but also give you plenty of support. I cannot stand sliding around on cold floors, but I wear these all day at home and they keep me so cozy. Bombas has a few other slipper styles, including slides, mules, and also the gripper slippers. These are flexible. They've got the grippy bottoms. Again, no slipping and sliding. These are wonderful for travel. Throw them in a bag. Also love to mention that Bombas donates an item for every purchase. They've donated over 150 million essential items like socks, t-shirts, and underwear to people experiencing homelessness. So feel good and do good with Bombas. New customers get 20% off their first purchase. Just click the link in my description and use code Tiffany20 at checkout. Thank you, Bombas. Get these back on. Continuing on down the path of madness, I Google original Betty Boop because, again, the people in the comments are like, the original Betty Boop wore her upside down corset. How are they finding this? I'm trying to find like the original, like the earliest Betty Boop cartoon, but this instead brings up stories of the real Betty Boop. And this is where we get to, actually, who inspired the character of Betty Boop? Many people cite Helen Kane as a major bit of inspo for the character, but there are allegations that Kane basically stole boop boop doop and a lot of the persona, the hair, from actually a black performer named Esther Jones, aka Baby Esther. I don't have time to dig into all the lore here because there actually is a lot of back and forth, and like Betty Boop historians have disagreed about, again, who exactly originated what element and when. But I do like to believe that Betty Boop is black. It makes more sense to me.
This all gets even more confusing because like this picture is apparently a cosplayer. This is a woman who's misattributed often but is an unknown woman. People cite like these pictures as evidence, but then it's like, wait, that actually was not her. This is another layer of like confusion and a little bit of misinformation in the comments because I saw people saying things like, some people were saying Baby Esther is not the same person as Esther Jones. They're like, no, actually, like Baby Esther was an actual child. And I'm like, yes, that's true. Baby Esther was a child performer. Esther Jones. As a child. She also went by Little Esther. But like apparently she was like a worldwide sensation and traveling all over performing for like royalty. And the whole time she was reportedly like 10 or even younger. And that in itself makes me nervous because like any kind of child performers, I just like want the best welfare for them. And especially at this time, that was not very common. And then of course it's uncomfortable that this character Betty Boop has become so sexualized and like is apparently based off of or inspired by someone who was inspired by a literal child performer. It's a lot. And again, I had to spend like at least an hour or 2 reading about all of this and like untangling things. And yes, I did initially think these pictures were Esther Jones. So it's like, this is an example for myself of like, it's very easy to believe misinformation, especially when even like articles, you do Google it and it comes up as this. It can be a lot harder to dig into the nuance and be like, oh, actually, we don't know that for sure. That's unconfirmed. These pictures are misattributed. But that makes it all the more important for people to like take some time or at least like practice the skills of reading a little deeper into these things and not just believing every single thing you see in a comment section.
Anyway, a lot of this saga, in addition to just wondering where the hell people get their information and why they like to just spread misinformation without thinking, another part of this is that many people literally cannot read. They have very, very poor comprehension skills and they cannot communicate communicate clearly. And it's so crazy to witness this in comment sections because like sometimes it's hard to understand. You're like, wait, what is that person saying and how did they jump to that? It's because someone is not comprehending another comment and then they're just like throwing confusion into the mix, right? So here's an example. Miss Pretty Panda commented, Betty Boop has a heart-shaped neckline. I don't understand why people are wearing the corset upside down. The heart-shaped neckline is her signature. Someone responds, it's not that serious and you're the 1,000th comment to say this exact thing. Okay, let her live. That's what a comment section is. Anyway, Miss Pretty Panda replies, nothing about my comment was taking it too seriously. I was asking a question while providing corresponding information. Then Gianna responds, I'm on your side, but you did not initially ask a question in your first comment. You kind of just made your point, which is a valid point, but you're overdoing the crying emojis, girly. But let's go back to that. You did not initially ask a question in your first comment. And as I'm reading this argument start to unfold, I'm like, so this person believes just because Miss Pretty Panda didn't use a question mark that she didn't ask a question. But she said, I don't understand why people are wearing it upside down, which does imply a question. The question being, why? Why are people wearing it upside down? It's like, it's crazy that we're having these conversations in comment sections where there's all this confusion over something as basic as like, I asked a question, I don't think you asked a question. Huh? And we wonder like why people get lost in the sauce. How do people get so mixed up? How do people like read tone and everything so wrong? People are fighting when they're actually like making the same point and they don't even realize it. But it's like these threads are so hard to read and they're so hard to comprehend because it kind of just like spirals into nonsense. Let's move on from Betty Boop. Thank you, Betty Boop upside down. Sounds like Stranger Things discourse. On this note of people not being able to communicate in the comments, I have a few more examples. These are quick. I was watching an Eddie Burback video, reading the comments as I do. OP wrote, bro found a way to criticize AI, behave like a big baby, and get a tax write-off for a vacation all in one video. Maybe he really is the smartest baby of 1996. And someone replied, commenters continue to not know what tax write-off means. And this opened up a can of worms because people love to speculate about YouTuber tax write-offs. But it's like, yeah, okay, so in this video, Eddie Burback went on like a vacation to Joshua Tree because the AI told him to. So like that was part of the video. That was part of the narrative. Think about this in terms of like if he were making a short film. If this is the plot of the film, it requires him to go to this place, going to that place and paying the costs to do that, the expenses. Those are in fact business expenses. Do you know what I mean? And this is not tax advice, okay? If you're a YouTuber or somebody watching, absolutely get your own accountant or CPA. But based on my knowledge, again, I'm not gonna tell you like exactly which expenses count or whatever, like that very much depends on your own tax professional's advice. But I would just assume that yeah, when a video requires doing something, you're allowed to write off the cost of doing that thing. I can't explain this in an easier way, but it's too late. Somebody else started to pop off and let's hear it. You literally cannot write shit off for YouTube videos. Any YouTuber doing that is a scammer and is so gross. That's false. Loud and wrong. Like, I know that like a lot of audiences don't like it. It makes us upset and uneasy that somebody could be like, oh, I spent $10,000 on a shopping spree video and like that's a business write-off, whatever. Again, I'm not your tax professional, but the idea of that pisses off a lot of audiences and I get that. It seems like wrong or it seems like a way to cheat the system. But yes, if doing YouTube is bringing in revenue and this is your job, it is a business, there are expenses for business that you are allowed to write off. You can't even write off certain uniforms you're forced to buy in the USA if you're able to wear them in other circumstances outside of work. Look it up. Look it up. Famous words of somebody who's very knowledgeable. I think this probably is about like other jobs, like if you're an employee at a restaurant and you have to wear a uniform, you have to buy the work shoes. I think it is true that those employees are not allowed to write off their uniform, which I think is bullshit. First of all, they shouldn't have to pay for their uniform at all. I think their employer should pay for the uniform and pay for their shoes. But those tax rules are different than somebody who has a business. Those are very different tax circumstances. Anyway, it's never legal to write off anything you had a choice to buy or not to buy from work. Loud and wrong. I'm like, again, it very much depends on the details, but like sometimes meals, travel, supplies. I legitimately hope one day every YouTuber who did this has to pay back every piece of clothing they wanted to buy and wrote off after wearing on screen and every trip they took for fun but made a video during. Y'all want to blame blame inflation on every number of things, but never want to talk about influencer marketing, a budget being supplied for free items to be sent around the world, and dumbass write-offs like this. Again, I understand the anger that this person has. I understand that YouTubers writing off things that seem dubious is questionable, but again, that's between them and the IRS. If they want to take that risk of potentially being audited or whatever, that's truly on them. But like, YouTubers writing things off doesn't cause inflation. You might be directing your anger at the wrong entity here. You're allowed to be mad at influencers for many reasons. You're allowed to dislike them, but we should be mad about the systems. We should be mad about capitalism. We should be mad at our elected officials who are corrupt. We should be mad at lobbyists. Okay, here's another silly example. This was just a video of someone like doing a little PowerPoint with their friends, and their friend is really bad at guessing or like knowing who celebrities are. And there were some classic misunderstandings in the comments. So someone comments, Meredith Grey, a reply, not even a real person, mind you. Another reply, it's the main woman in Grey's Anatomy. Then someone's like, she's a character. And Girly's like, I know. Someone else chimes in, the TV show, the fictional television show starring Ellen Pompeo. So no, Meredith Grey is not real. And Girly's like, I know. I was saying it's the main girl from Grey's Anatomy. I never said Meredith Grey was a real person. And it's just like so funny. I don't know why it brings me so much joy to like see, well, joy and anger depending on the comment section. This is where I'm like, hey people, you don't need to be responding to each other in the comments. There's always like a third or fourth or fifth person who like just jumps in and gets involved, and it's like, hold on, huh? They're coming in and they're like, this stupid person doesn't know that Grey's Anatomy is a fictional TV show. This stupid person doesn't know that Meredith Grey is a character, not a real person. And it's like, the whole time, yeah, they know that. They already like said that. And you're trying to like kind of dunk on them for being wrong, but you're wrong about thinking they're wrong. Loud and wrong. Here we are. Another note I made for myself is, by the way, why is everyone allergic to using punctuation? And I know that it's like always kind of been a young person thing, and I guess kind of still a Gen Z thing, I guess maybe Gen Alpha, to like type in lowercase and not use punctuation. I get it. It's like there's a certain style of internet writing that reads as the most nonchalant. I get it. I've never been good at it because I love punctuation. And this isn't the worst example, but this is just one I came across. It was someone saying, I hate gay Halloween because what do you mean you're the concept of the concept of? And I was so confused because I hadn't learned about the concept of meme yet. And so my brain is trying to comprehend that. And I'm like, what the fuck does this mean? I hate gay Halloween because what do you mean you're the concept of the concept of? I thought it was a typo. I didn't know what was going on. Out of the loop. And I'm just saying, hey, would it kill us to use some quotation marks or even capital letters once in a while? Because if you wrote it out like this, I would get it. I'd still be like, what is the concept of? But at least I would understand it's an entity, it's a thing. People hate periods. Nobody wants to use a comma anymore. It's just fucking confusing. I'm trying to comprehend the internet. I'm really trying to grip onto my brain power, but you guys are making it a little hard. I think we could all help each other out by using some punctuation, please. And here's one more little example of willful misunderstanding. I swear people go out of their way to not understand you. It's like, maybe just take 1 second to think it over before you send a reply in the comments, just like you're not adding anything productive. Here was a Reddit post about the turkey prices of Thanksgiving. Someone comments, 97 cents for butterball turkeys at Walmart, blah, blah, blah. And someone comes in, less than a cent per pound? OP replies, 97 cents a pound, 84 cents a pound. And other people chime in, and the guy's like, correct, but 0.97 cents, as previous commenter wrote, is equivalent to blah, 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 portion of a cent. Sir, you know that the price of a turkey is not less than a cent per pound. So use your brain. Perhaps, mayhaps, someone did a little typo. Oh no, they typed it out with a decimal point and the word cents, which, yes, technically they wrote it wrong, but again, use your brain. Use your brain. Do you think it's more likely that turkeys cost less than a cent per pound, or is it more likely that somebody did a little typo? God, what the fuck? And I'm glad they got downvoted because you're just annoying. Again, willful misunderstanding. If you're such a good reader that you're reading and you're picking up every single word in this comment section, I know you're smart enough to be like, oh, that's a typo. And I think you're trying to make somebody feel dumb for making a little mistake. Shut up. Jesus Christ. But wait, there's more. I have a whole other example of loud but wrong. So let's continue. This is the Dove Beauty Bar debacle. And this actually is a whole tangent that I cut from my video about performative hygiene. And a central point of that video was basically, I don't care what your shower routine is, okay? And I'm not looking to find some objective truth about the right way to shower. I don't think there's necessarily a right or wrong way to bathe as long as you're putting some effort in, you know? But I stumbled across so much misinformation when it comes to bathing that I literally could not stop myself from digging deeper into it because I'm petty. And again, I recognize the irony in that I am not a professional, a dermatologist, whatever. I am simply annoying, have a compulsive Googling habit, and I have to know the truth about every silly question that I encounter, okay? So I did this little bit of research for myself, right? So again, in writing that video, I came across a lot of debates, specifically surrounding what actually counts as soap. And this was surprising to me because I was like, I feel like it's pretty straightforward. Like, use something to wash, that's more or less soap. It does the job. In many shower routines, people talked about this specific product, and I'm gonna have to go grab one. I bought it as a prop for the video. Here it is, a Dove Beauty Bar. And this item became very controversial within these routines, depending on whether or not you used it with like a dozen other soaps. Because some argued, this will not get you clean. And as I'm watching so many different videos, reading tons of comment sections, this keeps coming up and I'm like, what the hell are people talking about? This is literally a bar of soap. Is it not? They say no. Look at the name. This is a Dove Beauty Bar. It isn't soap. It is a moisturizing bar.
If you're ever at a hotel, cream beauty bar, this is not soap. Moisturizing cream, this is not soap. Dove is not soap. This is what they have by the sink for washing your hands. Dove is not soap. Madness!
And this absolutely baffled me. To me, it's so obvious that that's clearly just part of the marketing. Like, calling it a beauty bar just makes it sound a little fancier than just soap. And apparently these are more moisturizing than your typical bar soap, which can be quite drying. Dove is essentially trying to say, like, this product is not soap, it's better than soap.
This is not soap. I'm teaming up with Dove to tell you why.
But people are just hearing it's not soap and they're getting confused. So like, stop it, Dove. But technically and like scientifically there is a difference. Like, this product is actually not soap. Spoiler. Because like, soap is a chemical thing, a specific thing. All soaps are surfactants, but not all surfactants are soap, right? So this is a surfactant, but it's not soap. But like, again, come on. Colloquially, we as people refer to the things that we clean ourselves and things with as soap, right? Dish soap, hand soap, body wash, bar soap, whatever. It's all soap to me, yeah. Soap. I don't care if it's chemically technically soap, okay? And the people in these comments were not chemists or dermatologists arguing about the technical details. These were just regular, random, anonymous internet commenters who had the gall to loudly proclaim that other people were wrong, that their shower routines were wrong. And obviously you're an idiot if you think you're gonna get clean using that Dove Beauty Bar. Duh. And that's why these examples get me so heated. Of course, people are allowed to be wrong. We all make mistakes. Sometimes we spread something and it turns out to not be true. Oops, please correct me. But when you are wrong and so loud, and when people push back, you're still doubling down. Anyway, whether or not this product is chemically soap, it serves the same purpose, okay? It will clean you. You take a shower, you rub it all over your body, you'll be good. This is from Dove's website. What's shaped like and cleanses like a bar soap, but cares like a moisturizer? As these TikToks have said, it's not technically a soap, but it behaves like a soap.
I'm a cosmetic chemist to let you know that yes, you are correct that Dove is not a soap, but it's actually safe to use like it is a soap.
So again, is it so bad if like people, the public, consider it part of the soap body washing umbrella? This is not an ad for Dove. No thank you, Unilever, but I'm just trying to correct the record. There's more. I saw tons of people loudly proclaiming that everyone should be using antibacterial soap all over their body every single day. And the idea is, of course, duh, bacteria is bad. We want to get rid of it. Don't just use regular, boring, lesser soap. Use super soap. Antibacterial soap. The stronger soap is gonna kill more stuff and it's therefore better. And this is another scientific rabbit hole that I'm not qualified to argue, but in my brief Googlings, I found that no. First of all, it's very bad, actually, to overuse antibacterial soap because it can contribute to antibiotic resistance, and that is a major problem. But also, in the vast majority of circumstances, using specifically antibacterial soap is just not necessary based on how all soap works. Surfactants, soaps, they basically open up cells and destroy bacteria. That's their whole MO, as long as you scrub for long enough and let it do its job. So yeah, again, all soaps do that. You don't need antibacterial soap because all soaps can destroy the cells of bacteria. But again, especially in this hyper-competitive, performative hygiene side of the internet, people do believe that using harsher soaps is better. It's gonna get you more clean, when in actuality, harsher soaps remove good bacteria. They can destroy your skin's protective layers and leave you vulnerable to infections, which can make your skin worse and even make you smell worse because of yeast and stuff. Again, I'm not a scientist. But that again is why it's like these people being loud and wrong in comment sections, a lot of times it doesn't matter. It's fine. People are just arguing. It is what it is. But sometimes people are spreading misinformation that is actually harmful and can hurt other people. And again, that is why unless you have a specific skin condition or your dermatologist has recommended a specific routine for you, most people are totally good with just a basic, gentle cleanse with some kind of soap, some kind of surfactant. You'll be good. There were other claims that basically argued that body wash or shower gel aren't soap or cleansers, whatever. They don't clean you, apparently. Some people specifically said that these products are actually just for the sake of scent layering. And again, I'm like, excuse me, where did these ideas come from? I'm seeing them widespread, and I'm like, huh? I've never heard that before in my life. Why would shower gel and body wash be in the shower and bathing section of the store? Why would they instruct you to wash your body with them if they don't work to wash your body? I know like products and companies lie, but I'm like, I didn't think this was a thing that we were debating, right? And a comment said it in a great way. I just don't understand why people suddenly decided that most soaps don't clean you. All of a sudden, everyone's an expert on saponification. And I'm like, yeah, body wash and shower gel will remove dirt and oil from your skin, which is the goal. It's doing it. According to Dial, bar soap is solid, simple, and practical. Body wash is a liquid soap. I can't believe I'm even saying this. It's typically made up of more ingredients and often offers specialized benefits such as hydration or exfoliation, blah, 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 blah. You can make a decision based on your skincare needs. Do you want something that's a little more exfoliating? Do you want something a little more moisturizing? There are different ingredients in different products, right? If you have more sensitive skin, if you don't like the texture of something, you might pick a different product. So again, any of these products are fine to use. Any of these products will in fact clean you pretty decently. It just comes down to personal preference. And lastly, one more argument. This was on someone's shower routine where they showed you the products in the order you're supposed to put them on, as if it's gospel. Someone commented, you should put deodorant on after lotion. A reply said, you're lotioning your armpits? And they're like, are you not? And they're like, no. I've never thought about lotioning my armpits unless they're like very like razor burned and really need some help. But I will say that putting lotion on and then putting on deodorant feels wrong to me. But again, I don't lotion my armpits anyway. But this comment chain ends with each of them saying, I'm just listening to my dermatologist. Well, I'm just listening to my dermatologist. And it's like, okay then, that's fine. Glad both of you have dermatologists. Glad both of you have professionals to direct these questions to. Can we agree then to focus on what works for us individually and not tell other people that they have to follow your prescription, basically. They have to follow the advice of your dermatologist. Keep it to yourself. Literally, so many comment sections would be so much better if people would just like, they're voluntarily jumping into fights with strangers. It's wild. Anyway, what really drove me crazy about that video, and it actually rings true to the Betty Boop example as well, is like when people on the internet especially act like there is one right way to do something. And also that it's like such a dire, serious issue anyway that they have to tell everyone. If you don't shower with these exact products and in this exact order, then you're gross and dirty and disgusting. It's like, actually, it's fine. It's fine. You can dress however you want in your Betty Boop costume. Bottom line though, don't spread misinformation. Many people need to learn how to do their research because apparently it's not working. They're saying look it up. I don't know what they're looking up or where. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know if you want me to do more episodes of Loud and Wrong. It's gonna take me some time to collect these because I just save them as I come across examples in the wild, or actually you can email to 2ferg2furious if you happen to find an example you want to share. But yeah, it's like on one hand I'm kind of laughing, but I'm also like, again, this is such an example of the media literacy crisis and the reading comprehension, just like general literacy crisis. And so in some ways it's very deeply worrying, but the way I'm coping is by trying to have a laugh. Okay, that is all. Stay tuned for more second channel videos. And thank you again to Bombas for sponsoring today's episode. Okay, thanks, bye!